Before we get started, a quick word from our sponsor, Community Financial's President CEO Tansley Stern podcast, Despite Impossible. Now on to the show. Studio Lounge interviews brought to you by Trellens. Hey everybody, Mike Lawson here with CUBroadcast. Welcome back to our continued coverage of the 2025 Trellens EDGE conference here in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. And look who's in the Studio Lounge. Oh my gosh, Shane Butcher from Optiri.
Yes, thanks for having me again,
Mike.
Yeah,
You're back. Yeah. Our original conversation was at GAC in DC just a couple of months ago.
It was, talking about how we came up with the name and what it means. So.
And I learned a new word that day, Optiri. So so how are you? How are things been since GAC? You guys have been busy, I was
Really good, yeah. I mean, getting the brand out there, still doing the good work that we always did, and kind of expanding what we're doing. So it's been a lot of fun.
All right. Any highlights from the conference before we dive into our topic here?
I got to tell you that first intro piece was just phenomenal.
Everybody's
Again, they stepped it up, and I mean, all of the content has been great. I love the EDGE Exchange demos. Just getting to see all the technologies of the folks that are around here. I think it really helps. So.
Yeah, you guys are knocking it out of the park once again this year. So all right. So the topic at hand here, Shane, is the importance of financial impact assessments in strengthening credit union resilience. We like that R word. We like resilience.
We do like resilience,
especially when you put the word credit unions right before it.
Yes.
So so talk to me about credit union resilience and what is it and why it's so important.
Okay. So really with resilience, what we're looking at is how we're planning for disruptions and minimizing the impact of those disruptions, right? So
planning for disruptions,
right? So, whether it's a fire or a flood, natural disasters, communication outage, somebody driving into one of your branches, right? Which we've seen happen. Yeah, I've seen the pictures from some of our credit unions, right? And then looking at those types of disasters, or a single system outage, right, or an entire data center losing a branch. How do we build systems and processes to keep serving the members? So whether it's high availability type systems or offline procedures so that they can keep doing transactions. How do we do that with the credit unions, right? And it's like I said, really looking at those processes, systems, procedures, and what do you do to make sure that we continue serving members, serving our employees, protecting our assets, and ultimately protecting our brand. So, and we've got a really cool tool that Hugh was showing yesterday called CURecover that helps credit unions plan for that resilience and actually moves that whole process forward.
Love it. So let's talk about the EDGE Exchange here. So you just referenced Hugh. Discussed the FIA solution. So tell me a little bit more about.
Not the FIA?
Yeah.
So Hugh, our CTO.
Did I pronounce it right? Is it FIA or?
FIA. So that is a financial impact analysis, right? And so what that is, and we've actually created a really cool tool. So it goes out and grabs the 5300 data, looks at asset size, loan portfolio, loan growth, income streams, does a little analytics on the backside, and then visualizes for the credit union what that impact is. So if they're down for a day, a week, or a month, right, because those costs start to escalate exponentially, what can they expect that cost to be, right? And so part of the importance of that is now we can make risk-based decisions and financial-based decisions on how we invest, plan for the future, and plan for those disruptions. So whether it's buying security tools, doing high availability systems and backup systems, right? Do we need the system to be up in 15 minutes or do we need it to be up in 24 hours, right? And where it lies in that. And so that that financial impact analysis really is the first piece, and then we go into a business impact analysis, right? Which then drills down on the individual business processes, departments, systems, so that you can prioritize those, use that financial data, and then really give yourself the best value for the investments that you're going to do to make sure that your credit union keeps moving forward.
Indeed, So good that you guys, as you're talking, I'm hearing the word being proactive, or the phrase being proactive is bouncing around in my brain. And it sounds like this is the theme here.
Oh, 100%
Get ahead of this, for sure.
Get ahead of it. We've got a great team at Optiri that's all they do is help folks plan for resiliency, right? Between business continuity aspects of that and, building procedures, doing business impact analysis, building, the lists of your contacts and employees and being able to send out notifications and then, organizing all of that as well as the disaster recovery side, right? And helping you, both, continue to operate and then recover from these events.
For sure. Yeah, because you don't want to get behind the eight ball.
No,
pardon the pun here, but in this area, because you want to have all your ducks in a row as much as possible.
Absolutely,
in this area.
And it's one of those things you want to practice for every year, right? We recommend tabletops.
Like tabletops,
exactly, and so you get all of the departments involved and walk through those procedures.
How often should people be having these exercises? Because I've heard annually, or
at least annually.
Twice a year, depending on.
Well, and we recommend that you do a couple different types, right? So, I mean, you do a business continuity tabletop, right, and try to do one or two scenarios, right? All right, a flood or communication outage. We then recommend, and credit unions are required to do some sort of disaster recovery test. We recommend doing all of your systems, right, and that's part of what we do, because that first time it takes you a little while, right? There's things you got to learn.
For sure.
Systems don't like to come up in another location, right? So doing that every year to make sure that you're accounting for the changes to the environment. And then we also recommend doing a cyber incident tabletop at least once a year, right?
That's what I was thinking of.
Well, exactly. Yep. And you want to understand what to do when it happens, right? Because things have to happen very quickly. And if you've done them, you're not trying to scrambling and think about what it is. Where is it in my plan? You're ahead of the game. So we recommend doing at least all three of those once a year, if not, some of those twice a year.
I think of it as like a professional sports team. They practice for a reason, and you go over and over it again. So once it's time to play the game, so to speak, that it's you don't have to think about it. You just go, you just do, you just execute.
So, you are so right. That is exactly why you do that, right? You build that muscle memory. Same thing you do in sports. You do it, with the way that you respond to these things and the way you make sure that you're continuing your business.
Indeed, sir. Indeed. So how does this tie in to the Optiri mission?
So
tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it ties in very well. So first, we want to create innovative solutions, right? So as credit unions are looking at how to stay resilient, we go in and help them do that. One, we talked about from the backup and the disaster recovery aspects, right? What's important to them? Where do they want to be? And, we build those. Similarly, from just the underlying technology stack, right? How do your applications need to run? How high availability do they need to be? And we can help them do all of that across all of their technology stack. Same thing with security, right? What is important to the credit union? How are we protecting the member data, and where is that? And building those innovative solutions for them. Then when we look at optimizing, processes and optimizing, all of that, how are you structured so that you can continue operating, both from your offline procedures, have you accounted for the various types of disasters and the likely ones in your area, right? Florida, we're not going to get a snowstorm that cuts off the roads, right? But, down there in Tampa,
these days.
You never know. You know what? It did come down pretty far this last year. But down in Tampa, with the hurricanes, and it's, so the weather this year, the last year, I'll take that statement back, right? But really focusing on the more likely scenarios in yours and being really prepared for that, and then accounting for the others that may happen. So really trying to help optimize those processes and drive the business to be able to do those things.
So what's on the horizon for the rest of 2025 and looking beyond here, because there's all sorts of business continuity, disaster recovery, getting hacked type of scenarios. What's on the horizon for you guys? How do you guys stay on top of this type of stuff?
Yeah, so we're doing a couple really cool things. One, we are expanding some of the security tool sets that we're offering for credit unions, really to start looking more real time at cloud security posture, right? Making sure that nobody's clicking the wrong button and opening things up so that we don't have to do a recovery event. We're expanding our CU Recover product to now not only focus on resiliency and business continuity, but now security, trying to tie other data into that, looking at vendor risk management, right? Trying to make sure that we're giving that whole picture that the credit union needs of their security, risk, and then continuity, so that when something happens, because something always happens, right? And hopefully it's a minimal thing, right? But even if it's losing a branch, right, they have all of the information that they need, the picture that they need to actually move that forward. So we're really expanding out that software product and excited about what's going to come later this year.
This is like peace of mind type stuff, right?
Yes,
as well.
Yes.
So not only is the practice and the tabletop exercises important, but this is also gives you peace of mind in case something happens. You are ready. You are ready to execute on that type of stuff for sure.
Yes, no, 100%. That is why we do this. We've done it for a lot of years, and we love it, right? I think you and I were joking. I was going to say that we make resilience exciting, but we do actually get really excited about it. So
in there somewhere.
It is. We should actually put that on our product, but we do get excited about it and making sure that we help credit unions do this. So.
That's a great message to end on. Oh my gosh, good stuff, Shane. Anything else, sir, before I unleash you onto the rest of the show?
So just for the folks that are watching that are still here, we are offering a free financial impact analysis to anybody that stops by the booth,
Oh,
or
right
anybody
on.
that actually follows up with us after the show. They can get one, and we'll be happy to give that to the credit union.
Even better. All right, man.
All right.
Shane. Thank you so much. Appreciate the time. Keep up the good work there at Optiri. Well
Will
done.
do. All right.
Good
Thank
job.
you so much.
Studio Lounge interviews brought to you by Trellens. A quick word from our sponsor, Community Financial's present CEO, Tansley Stern's new podcast, Despite Impossible.